Welcome to the Grove. My name's Matthew, and today we are doing something a little different. You'll notice we're actually in my living room, and that's because we're checking out the BoxKing BoxThrone shelving system. A quick disclaimer, BoxKing did send this unit over to us for free. They don't get a say in anything I say. No scripts, no talking points. It's just my actual experience building it, how I feel about using it, and how I feel about it several days after having it in my house. So like a lot of people, my games have been living on IKEA Kallax shelves, or just kind of the standard cube shaped shelves you can get at Walmart or Target, or really any big box store that'll sell you furniture. They're cheap and they've kind of become the hobby standard. You'll see in a lot of Kickstarters, game companies, advertising, it'll fit a Kallax. And that's great, but honestly, they just don't really do the best job for holding board games. For one, the most convenient way to store games is vertically. However, when you store a lot of games vertically, specifically ones that don't have any sort of insert, components just go everywhere. I have several games. Seven Wonders Duel is a really good example of, if I store it vertically, the next time I go to play it and I open it, like, components are everywhere. Cards have shuffled all over the place, and it's just really annoying. Okay, in a Kallax or a cube shelf, let's put a game horizontally. Well, then all of a sudden you have the issue of, you're trying to pull a game out from the below, and then all your games fall. It's fine. It doesn't really damage anything, but it is very annoying for that to happen over and over. And if you have a very big collection, it just kind of gets in the way. And so as my collection has started to outgrow the Kallaxes I already have, the question kind of came up, well, do I want to continue down this road? Do I want to continue buying these cube-shaped boxes, or do I want to look around, play the market? And when you start looking around, you're gonna see a couple of big companies that make, board game shelves, but I do think that BoxKing is the one that you could look to and say, no, their business model is designing cool board game shelves. So when BoxKing reached out and said, hey, we want to send you our BoxThrone system, we'll send you the Duke package for free, all we want is a video out of it, I said, yeah, let's take it, let's give it a look, let's give an honest opinion. And yeah, I think it's probably about time for us to rip open that box that came in the mail and get to building this dude. Let's go ahead and see how long it takes to build this Box Duke configuration of the BoxThrone. I have unpacked everything, as you can see behind me, but that is it. I have not done any construction. I've only glanced at the actual instructions, but we're gonna run a little timer and just, see how long it takes. Building the shelf was actually pretty easy. I did have some little hiccups where I was getting the bars upside down, but as you saw, I did it in about 20 minutes. So that's really not that bad, especially when you consider you're comparing this to, other from the, big box store furniture that could take, double that long because of, confusing instructions and just over-engineered things, I would say. This is very simple, so it's worth saying that each shelf only takes a few seconds to actually slot into place. I'll throw some B-roll up now of you seeing me plop some in, you put them in the back, have it then line up in the front. It's very, very simple, very easy to move around. It's not like some shelves where you have to pull out those little tabs, move them around, and they get stuck and you have to get pliers out and it just becomes a whole mess. You're able to just plop it in. Oh, it's too short, let me pull it up. Oh, it's too high, let me pull it down. It takes a matter of seconds, no big thing, and they feel very sturdy holding your heavy games. I will say they can be just a tad bit fiddly to make sure you've gotten them straight level, but I would say that that's probably a skill issue on my end and not anything to do with the way these shelves are designed. I can honestly say that I've had more trouble building dice towers that have come with board games than I have adjusting these shelves. But now comes the really fun part where I get to take all of the board games off that double Kallax system and see if I can make it fit in this BoxThrone. So I've gone ahead and organized this shelf. I was able to get 30 games on it. It wasn't quite everything I had over on the other shelves. If you'll recall, I had a big stack on top. It was kind of already overflowing. I would say I feel pretty good about the amount of games I was able to get on this shelf. The amount of real estate it will take up in my room and along the wall is less. So I'm getting probably a higher game per, square foot density here. But all in all, I'm happy with the way that it has come together in organization. So I will say one negative for this shelving system is in these racks that you get to put games on, you really can't put small box games on them very easily. Any of the Oink games or any card games, things like that, they just don't really fit. BoxKing does have a few little workarounds. They have an acrylic piece that you can put over one of these that you can buy. They also have drawer systems that you can use. You also, obviously, on the sections that are the base pieces, you could lay small box games on those. And the other option is, having some sort of, third-party box or storage solution. I have these boxes I got from IKEA. I threw some in that and they sit on the shelf just fine. That is a negative for the shelving system, that basically the only way to have small box games on them is to, have some sort of extra accessory. So let's talk build quality. I will say this shelving unit is, I would say, premium. The metal looks very good. You don't see any overspray or anything like that on the paint. All of the pre-drilled holes line up perfectly. No issues there on my end. Just it feels very sturdy, especially once you've got it covered up in games. So if you do kind of like that single tower look of a standard Kallax, I will say you can do that with the BoxThrone. I don't know that it's cost efficient. You might get about 20 to 30% more storage capacity than a standard 1x4 tower. Obviously, if you get the larger BoxThrone with 2 towers and all the internal little shelves, that is a very cost efficient way. But in this Box Duke setup, I would say probably don't do this. Just from a cost-effective standpoint. One other thing I really appreciate about BoxKing and specifically this shelving system is that they do have multiple different colors. You can mix and match, get kind of a two-tone situation going on. And I like that for being able to customize the look of your shelving unit to the room you're putting it in. From a build quality standpoint, the BoxThrone is really strong. The metal is really nice. The paint looks really good. My only issue is these baseboard pieces. They are made of an ABS plastic, a very sturdy. You see, I can't even start to flex it. It's very sturdy. I'm not worried about my shelf falling or this bowing or having any issues with it. It is purely a kind of aesthetic choice. Nothing wrong with the plastic, just might prefer wood. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, price. The thing about the BoxThrone system is that it is not cheap. This smaller configuration is $300. And when you compare that to an IKEA piece of furniture, this is a lot more expensive. That said, I think you're paying for some niceties that, board game collectors do enjoy. Horizontal storage, being able to have your games lay flat, not worried about components flying everywhere, that's a big deal. Shelves that can size perfectly to your games is also huge. Yes, the Kallax has kind of become the industry standard for sizing of boxes. However, I do think, some of us have collections that date back from before that was the case. And so it is nice to have a shelving unit that can adjust very easily to specifically the size of your games. You know, this is like buying into, you know, any sort of system that you would, in the fact that, you know, there is future expandability here. You know, when you buy a Kallax shelf or even just any other kind of standard bookshelf for holding games, when your collection becomes bigger than that storage unit can hold, guess what? You have to buy an entire new shelf. You butt them up against each other, but there'll always be that seam. It just doesn't look seamless. The awesome thing about this BoxThrone system is that this system allows you to do that. And I think that that is something worth buying into, the fact that, hey, I've got 30 games now on this shelf, but down the road, I could buy a whole nother section of this, attach it straight onto this, and hold 30 more games. If I had to do that with a Kallax, it would be a whole nother shelving unit that would have to butt up against the other, creating just not the most aesthetically pleasing setup. And finally, you are paying for the fact that this took me 20 minutes to set up, you know, probably another 30 minutes to organize my collection, you know, and get all the shelves exactly how I wanted them. But it was very stress-free. When I buy IKEA furniture, you know, we love it. It's cheap, it's great. I got through college with that stuff. It is never a stress-free experience. I've actually had boxes of IKEA furniture sit in the corner of my house for a while because I was like, ugh, do I want to spend a Saturday stressed out about building this furniture? And to be honest with you, IKEA is pretty good. I'm just saying that this is even better. You know, you compare this to something you get off Wayfair, you know, or something like that. This is just so much stress-free. It's easy. It takes one screwdriver. You don't have to use wood glue, anything like that. Like, it's just bing, bang, boom, shelf is set up, and you're into organizing your collection, which, if we're honest, is the best part about getting a shelving unit like this. Going through your collection saying, ooh, this game, I want it to sit by this one. Oh man, I haven't played this in a while. Let me open it up and look. Like, this shelf allows that to happen. That's probably enough blabbering for the moment, so let's go ahead and pull out those old Kallaxes, slide this dude in, and just kind of see how it looks in the space as compared to, you know, what we were looking at the beginning of the video. I think a big thing worth mentioning when it is looking at this BoxThrone is, you know, we talked about how does it hold small games, but how does it hold large games? So I have, you know, Luthier, Tinned, Mansions of Madness, really big box games on this shelf right now. And I mean, it handles them like a champ. I don't think that, oh, there's any sort of, you know, structural worries, but it also is very easy to get them slid in and slid out of this. I was a little bit concerned that, ooh, are these, you know, modern Kickstarter, you know, giant games going to, you know, get in the way? And honestly, it's not even an issue. You'll see in some of the B-roll shots that I have my games sit in there, you know, just fine. And they don't even really, if you turn them to the side, they don't stick out very far. It does take a little more finagling to pull them in and out of the bookshelf, but it's really not that big of a deal. So here's my honest takeaway. If you just want the cheapest shelf out there, the Kallax is still it. You know, you're not gonna beat the price of IKEA. Now, consider it's not real wood, they're not modular, easy to get torn up. I do think that there's a reason that the Kallax is so much cheaper than the BoxThrone. But really, if you want something that actually fits your games, looks great, feels like it was designed by somebody who actually loves board games, I really think you should consider the BoxThrone. And with that, I think that I have said all I really feel like I need to say about the BoxThrone. I like it. I'm gonna keep using it. It's just really cool that we got to do a video on this. If you would like to see more videos like this, reviewing board game furniture or board game accessories, make sure you like and leave a comment telling us that. And if you want to see playthroughs, you know, chatting about board game content or anything like that, be sure to subscribe because we have a lot more of that coming to you. And I'm gonna make like this corgi over here and go to sleep. So we'll see you next time.